This week at Shiloh, we've been excavating an ancient Roman pottery dump in our square. And we also found some pieces of a very interesting artifact. And I'm going to show you this fragment of a stone vessel cup. So this one fragment speaks volumes about 2,000 years ago in history in the land of Judea to me. And what archaeologists believe they are related to is the ritual purification system, the ritual purity. And the idea is you want to avoid impurity. Stone is not listed on the bad list. Therefore, if we make our vessels of stone, it cannot become impure. And we see an explosion of stone mugs, plates, bowls, cups that are used in this window of history for 100 years or so. And then they disappear from history. So what we find is Jewish believers are using these vessels to maintain ritual purity. And we think it may be related to an actual very famous story from the New Testament. Jesus has his Last Supper with his disciples. Would the Jewish host of the home have ever let that important rabbi and his followers use any vessels that could have become impure? The answer is most likely no. Likely it was stone vessels. So when Jesus passes the cup and uses the example, says, the wine represents my blood, it's very possible it's one of these that he's passing. So obviously these items speak to us and they take us back to a world, a material culture that has been gone for 2,000 years, but we read about in the Bible, and things like this one little stone artifact help brings that account to life.
We came across a wall. One day we were just kind of digging. We found the tops of a rock, and me and Dr. Cotter started to scrape off, and the rock had a friend and another friend, and it turned into a whole wall that we now have about 2 feet exposed of a wall. We're not quite sure the dating or where it's going, but we're very encouraged to find something that we didn't quite expect.
I have always had a deep interest in history, been interested in archaeology for a while, and when this trip came available, I jumped at the opportunity, especially because I want archaeology to be my career.
Currently, we have a large pile of rubble that we are trying to level down, create a flat area.
Well, for several years, we've been watching Digging for Truth on YouTube, and we've been very encouraged by that.
Lifting some really, really big rocks.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Fun, but big rocks.
My favorite things are terrariing, that's moving a lot of the dirt with the terraria. Also, just today I've been working with trying to dual wield with trowels just to speed up the process. Something I picked up from Gary Byers to see if I could carry on the legacy of using dual wield trowels.
I'm going to do a word study when I get home on rocks and dust. I believe you already said there's over how many references to dust?
About 100 references.
Just dust alone, but what God can do with rocks, what the Israelites can do with rocks is simply amazing.
I have learned more about the Bible in 3 weeks than I have like in my entire life combined. Just being here and just being able to see where it all happened. Well, we've done tons of touring, and so just going on sites and we just pull out our Bibles and just read scripture to place, and it just illuminates it and brings it to life in a way that you cannot understand just reading the text.
I think it just has made it more realistic.
It's really bringing the Bible instead of just names and people that we hear stories about, but these are real people that also had to worry about their homes and their food and then the streets they walked on. It's just amazing to bring that back to life.
I'd agree. It gives grounding to everything that you're reading in Scripture. Like, you're here. We're not exactly at a place where like people necessarily stood like in biblical times, but we're getting there like through the layers. But like, we're looking around and we see all the buildings, like the foundations of the buildings, and we're seeing the pottery. We're touching the things that people touched and like formed and made, and like seeing the hills pretty much the way that they saw them, and it's really special.
Yesterday they found a really cool, it was like a full handle piece, but it had a lot attached to it still. And that was super cool to see, just like how long that giant piece of pottery has been preserved. It's been waiting, sitting in the dirt for thousands of years for us to find it.
And they are actually adding to a real excavation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know you're making a difference.
When you read, when you've been there and you read it in the scripture, you see it in your mind, and it's the real thing. It's not what you thought it might have been. you know, reality.
It's all worth it.
Yeah, CCU is a great school. You'll hear so many times the community is great.
Colorado Christian University is awesome because we get to have a really one-on-one relationship with our professors. We have super small class sizes, so your professors really do get to know you and your interests.
We're with Colorado Christian University, so, and this was a team that Dr. Cotter and Dr. Rodriguez they've been going to Israel and doing digs for a while, so this is our first one at Shiloh, but yeah, so it was just through CCU to the World that we came here, so yeah.
And then a few of us are archaeology minors, so we're taking this as an actual class.
Yeah.
Great.
And you few archaeology minors?
Yeah,
2 of you?
Right.
Cool.
It's just a level of personalized relationships with your professors that you cannot get at a large university.
Hi, I'm Scott Stripling. In May of 2013, we uncovered an underground system called a hiding system, an olive press cave that had been repurposed as a tunneling and hiding system during the Great Revolt of the first century. Within that context, we found 8 human skeletons, 7 females and a young boy. Apparently what had happened at the site is the men died up top fighting, resisting the Romans, and they tried to hide their families down below, but these poor people were discovered and they were disarticulated. They were murdered by the Romans, and their bodies were left there for 2,000 years until our team came along. When we uncovered these human remains, it was quite moving because we found tacks from Roman military boots called caligulae. We also found arrowheads that were unique to the Roman military from that time. It was clear what had happened from the coins, from the pottery, from the carbon dating. This dated to the Great Revolt. When we'd finished the excavation and we'd studied these bones anthropologically, we determined the age of these victims. We determined that they were part of a Jewish population that was living there. The excavation was over and we were about to come here to Shiloh to begin. So I determined the best thing to do was to give these bones to the nearest Jewish community, which is at Ofra, about 2 miles away. And when I did, this became a very meaningful thing for this community. In fact, it brought the community together. They were dealing with dissensions about certain things, and this became a unifying factor. They buried these 8 skeletons together in a mass grave in their cemetery, and the highest commandment within Judaism has to do with burial, and these people had never received proper burial. And so the fact that they were buried and a monument was erected there telling the story both in Hebrew and in English of ABR. It mentions me and Bryant Wood and what we were doing at Kirby Del Macader, and referring to the heroic work that our team had done. We really weren't attempting to be heroes. We were just doing the right thing. And that's a great faith lesson, is that if we'll just do the right thing one day at a time, that it really does make a difference in the world. And to be able to go to Ofra with our team once a year and to see this monument and this reminder of people living 2,000 years ago, as Jesus said, though being dead, yet they speak. And so their story comes to us, and it's a tragic story on one hand, but it's a heroic story on another. And so we as archaeologists are privileged time to time to get past the rocks and the pottery and to get into the human story, and it's really quite moving. And we're privileged to be able to partner with these communities for now over 40 years here in Judea and Samaria.
Cool. All right, so is there anything I've left out that you want to say?
Not that I can think of, other than we have a giant rock pile that we have to make sure we capture in this video, because we've made truly a mountain out of what was an anthill before.
Yes, it was.